My never I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there. I see them yopo.
Very well, son. Happy to see you.
Happy to see you too. Yeah, you know, for years I had that your interview on my laptop. I always watched it. Like it was like 4 or 5 hours. It was very common. I think the person who beat you in my own personal list was Martin Amido. He went for special prosecutor.
Okay.
And then I think later Jakun when he went for minister for energy.
Okay.
But otherwise, that you're vetting in parliament. I don't know. Do you miss parliament?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you do miss parliament. I mean, especially for me, the committee is more because that creates much more bonding.
Yeah,
so you're able to have very quiet and deep conversations at committee level.
Yeah.
So
Since you were once Deputy Minister of Finance, I mean, in the course of this conversation, I'll ask you how our finances as a country are doing, and also generally how the government is performing. But let's talk about you as a person. How have you been? What have you been up to?
It's been eventful. I mean, as you imagine, if you are in charge of the day-to-day administration of a major organization as the National Democratic Congress, it's quite eventful, almost on a daily basis, especially once you strive through 8 years in opposition and you come back into office amidst a number of policy pronouncements made, promises that have been made, and the need for us to also set a tone that will inspire the country, and also, as we said ourselves, resetting the country. And that's a major theme to say you are resetting. It means that you are really, really pushing new paradigms, wanting to do things in a new way. So watching all that, ensuring that we keep to our promises, we do not simply relapse at all, and we do not also make the country believe that it's business as usual. I would say it's been quite very eventful.
I thought that when you are in government, there isn't a lot of work. If you're in opposition, of course, you have to be strategizing, planning, thinking. But you've won power, which is the basic function or basic objective of a political party. This is a time to rest, huh? Because the government is doing its work. Yeah. You are a party. Your job was to make sure this vehicle becomes government. It has become government now.
Yeah.
Communication, there's a minister. Security, there's a minister. Everything, somebody is handling it.
The
president is the responsible ultimately. Yeah. So as party scribe, you should rest or go on vacation.
I know. Ideally, that's how it ought to be. But I would just say that the situation this time around is different because remember, it's not just a victory as usual. This time, it's also victory telling a country that we want to do things differently. And the vehicle that made that promise was the party. So if there's a vehicle that has to ensure that that promise is kept, it must be the party number one. Also, every single person in government must constantly be informed that you are where you are on the back of what the party told people, promises that have been made by the party. So if there is actually a break of faith, the party is number one vehicle that will be blamed, because the president himself stood as a leader of the vehicle, and where he is, he still continues to be the leader of the party. So it's very important at every point in time to especially engage the president. Let him remember that you rode on the back of this political party and made a promise relating to resetting a country. So this party wants to constantly remind you that a promise has been made on our behalf, and that promise must be kept. It also means assuring the president that you have the backing of the party in terms of even difficult positions that have to be taken. And I would say that largely has continued also because the party at the highest level is represented in cabinet, where the highest decisions are taken. And the president clearly does feel that he has the backing of the party. That's important, but not just the backing of the party, the courage of the party to even tell the president that this is not right, or this is not in alignment with what we promised. And that should I call it, daily confirmation and affirmations become critical in terms of shaping the way we do it. When the president feels he has a party support and also the party's courage for the right things to be done, it becomes far more better than simply to say that, oh, I'm now in charge over the next 4 years and do what I want.
You listen to people in the NPP and they will tell you that one of the biggest problems of the last government was that there was a discord between party and President Akufo-Addo, and at a point the executives would say something he didn't care. There are people who made that claim. I don't know if it's true or not. How do you, as NDC, serve as that balance, as leaders, serve that balance between the party member in Avefia and the president sitting in Jubilee House. How are you able to balance the two? Because the needs of the party, does the government have to listen to everything the party says? Or there are times that you disagree, and when there's a disagreement, who wins?
All right. It's a very important question. I would say again, this particular victory is different, because even the party as an organization, we are not forgetful of the fact that this victory is even bigger than the party. And that itself is another work that is being done on our side, led by my own self, in terms of reorienting even the mindset of our own party people into appreciating that, as opposed to the past, where effectively we won victory purely on the back of we as a political party. This time around, this victory basically had the blessings of huge numbers of people who are not necessarily NDC, but who just wanted the right thing being done. And a lot of these people are the younger generation. And which I always say is a good thing happening in this country, that we need to now have a young generation that virtually transcends politics, that wants things done well. And this young generation, therefore, constantly serves a notice to all in leadership that we are here not because we like you as a political party, but because we want the right things done. Now, so if you have a political party that is simply in alignment with the understanding, that becomes also important in terms of guiding the members of your own party. So there is a limit to what you party people can do.
Do the party people know this?
You must appreciate that we are doing a reset again. So even the party itself needs to go through a bit of that reset. The party itself needs to transition away from the original situation where the victory is totally because of us, to now the victory is not simply because of we played a role, but it's bigger than us. So therefore, whatever we do, always be mindful that if you do it, if you go overboard, you start alienating that large group, especially the young people who came with you, who want the right things done. It simply means that at every point that your number one consideration should be, are we doing far better than we saw? And are we truly setting a tone that can inspire the country for generations to come?
This self-check,
that becomes another.
This self-check, this self-pinching, it will take a lot. I mean, early days yet, so it's easy to do. But as the government grows, people become stronger, more powerful. The quest for amassing wealth would come naturally because we are humans and we are greedy by nature. How are you? What assurance can you give us that you would be able to control that human tendency to go wayward, where they would forget that, hey, listen, this is a bigger victory than you and I, and so we must preserve something for Ghanaians, because Ghanaians respected and hoped in us. That's why they give us this victory. How assured are you that you can control the people who are your appointees, even all the way to the president himself?
I mean, again, a very, very important question again. The thing is, you cannot predict what humans will do. It is often said that you don't really know people until you give them an opportunity to serve. And it is when you give them the opportunity to serve that you know their true nature. Because, the tallest trees are also the trees that are very grounded, very deeply rooted. And it's not all people who have that level of what you call deep-rootedness. And here I'm talking now about personal values. Because it's not so much the fact that you belong to a political party that's different. You must have values yourself. You must have a certain desire that transcends yourself and even transcends your party, where you want to do things that are right, fundamentally because they are right, not because they benefit you. Now, so until you give opportunity to people, you wouldn't know that. But once the people appreciate that this party, especially this current version of the party, will not sacrifice what is good for the collective for what is good for you as an individual, naturally people start to realize that then it's a different ball game. So for instance, if you are an individual, whether you're a minister or a chief executive or holding any position, you do know that this party will simply not defend you at the expense of the party or defend you at the expense of the country. That if you go wrong, you go under the bus and you take personal responsibility.
They know this?
Oh, they know that.
And the party will do this?
And the party definitely will do this.
The government will do this?
Absolutely. And the good thing is that we have also secured that, shall I call it, perfect assurance from the president. And if I sit in cabinets who I do know that the president again and again does state exactly that same position. That no matter who you are, if you do anything that literally will bring what you call the collective good into jeopardy,
you will not be protected.
You pay the price yourself.
President
Akufo-Addo
said to his appointees that if you want to make money, go into the private sector, not in this government. 8 years on, we do know what happened.
That's right.
What is the assurance that this statement you're making to me would also not just become lip service?
I totally agree. But you also appreciate that if you observe what you call the previous government very well, right from the very day of inauguration, what you would say signs of what depravity started showing. Depravity that shows that what it is they say is not exactly what they do. When you had the very day of what you call inauguration, the president literally plagiarizing speech that belongs to another president. It may sound very innocuous or almost harmless, but it's indicative for your deep inner values. If you are somebody who believes in authenticity and truth, you don't, for example, engage in things like that. You set a tone to the country. And then, of course, you saw. It didn't take us even a couple of weeks before the scandal started happening virtually on a day-to-day basis. You literally can check, for example, what has happened over there, almost getting to a year now. You see, every single person does know that, listen, you make that mistake in the NDC, you pay the price. You cause any of that scandal, nobody stands behind you. And the party will be number one to put you under the bus. In fact, I tell you at the highest level of the party, word around is that be careful, otherwise you go under the bus. And everybody.
And how long is this going to last?
Because that's how it ought to be. That's why I'm telling you that this victory is a different victory. It's not a traditional victory. In the past, where, for example, President Akufo will say, no, I'm afraid to tackle corruption because it will destroy my government. No, that's not what the reset spirit is about. The reset spirit is do what is right. The party must be bold enough to say this is not acceptable because we are not here for ourselves. We are here for something bigger than even the political party.
But if you don't protect a party member, what's the use of being part of an association, an organization called a party? The expectation is that our people protected their people. I mean, those people, our opponents protected their people. Why don't you protect me? Especially if I have contributed to the party in various ways, financially, personally, in every way.
I would say in the last 8 years, what we saw was not so much the protection of the people, but much more of the protection of those who absolutely were part of what you call the gang of looting. Because obviously the people who were looting and clearly sharing that booty with the highest, who were in those positions, clearly they had to be protected. Now, in the first place, we have told you that we are first of all not even interested in your looting if you intend to loot. You can't come to General Secretary that intend to do this, and this is going to come for the party, you're wasting your time, it's not happening. Now, naturally, if you do know, for example, that the highest leaders of the party themselves are not interested in any of that shady thing, you naturally are going to think twice.
There's a voice I remember, Party Hiasika. It was something that was said in the past.
I know.
Don't your party need money?
I know. Yeah, you see, there are legitimate ways of raising money without doing things that will jeopardize your country. And that's the position we articulated, that there are very legitimate ways of making money. You don't need to destroy your country. Okay, you don't need to literally deprive your people of the things that they need simply because you are trying to build a party. Because again, NDC has a much bigger, shall I call it, bar to cross. It's simple. If you check again, I mentioned it, the very first words of our anthem talks about the fact that we are for the country. You see, arise and arise for Ghana. So it's not, the commitment for Ghana is not simply something that we just mouth in our shall I call it, teams. We mean that do it well for the country. I would say in the past year, we tried, but this time with the spirit of reset and with President John Mahama having a final opportunity to be able to leave a legacy, we have a very golden opportunity and a unique opportunity to simply do it well for the sake of the future.
There are people who see politics as an investment. You invest with party t-shirts, you invest with money, with vehicles, and then when the party is in power, you reap what you sowed. You get profit for the investment you engage in. This position of yours suggests that you're not going to allow people to profit from their investments. They will not be happy with you. There will be so many people angry with you.
No, just to really know what it means. The truth is, the matter is that even if nobody even invested in any political party, a government will always have an opportunity to be able to do a number of things. And people who are Ghanaians, people who come from that country, have what you call every right to be able to literally look for opportunities. It different places. So the difference, however, is this. We are saying that if you truly say you belong to a political party, then you should be friends of that political party. And being a friend of the NDC, for example, means that you do what is right for country first and foremost. You can't say you are a friend of NDC when you want to do things that will destroy the country. So the thing is, we are saying that you call yourself a true member of the NDC, then you truly must be somebody who loves the country enough to do what is right. Now, if you do what is wrong, then clearly you are an enemy and not a friend. So in that case, if you are not giving help, you are not being given help because you clearly, your conduct, your behavior, your value system show that you absolutely are not a friend to the party. You are actually an enemy to the party.
We see some actions taken by the government, and some of the social media critics would say it is what is now called settings. I don't know if you are familiar with new social media jargon, and that you are just engaging in settings. Yeah. So, for instance, this issue of the Office of Special Prosecutor, two of your leaders in Parliament, in fact, your leaders in Parliament have said that they want the whole office scrapped. And this leader in Parliament sits in cabinet with you. Then the president comes to say, no, do not go ahead with what you are planning to do. You do know the difference between the legislature and the executive. You've served in both. You know that there should not be interference. But of course, there's a party that is at play here. People are saying, why would one person say this and then another comes to say this? And that is simply to whitewash and make the president look like a hero who has come to save the system. How do you defend that public disagreement we have seen?
First of all, it's not unusual to have people who belong to the same political party or even who are working within the same one, they have different opinions. It's not at all. In fact, if you recall, in the wake of the conversation regarding, should I call it, Galamsey, people started saying, now when DC went in opposition, you actually said that there was going to be what you call a state of emergency. Remember that? In the wake of that conversation, I remember I issued a statement. Basically, it was just a quick statement to say that, listen, individuals ahead of 2024 made their individual pronouncement. And I even mentioned some of the colleagues some of them who were in government today. And I say whatever pronouncement they made at the time, they did in their individual capacity. Unless you are capable of showing, for example, an NDC manifesto that said this is the position of the party, or you heard, for example, the leader of the party, that's then the candidate of the party, or should I call it, let's say, general secretary who speaks on behalf of the party, articulating the position of the party. If you cannot say that, then it's individual position. Now, this view on the special prosecutor, clearly, individuals can have their own perspective. The decision becomes a political decision if it's discussed at the highest level of our party. So, for example, the political committee of the party, that is led, for example, by the president, and that has key people, not just at the current level of his leadership, but also past leaders of the party, sit together and say, this is our position. Then, anyone who articulates that position is speaking on behalf of the party. Otherwise, whatever somebody might say in Parliament represents the person's personal position, and that personal position is absolutely not the party's position. What the president states as the leader of the party represents exactly.
But why would the president disagree with his leader of government business?
Let's say this.
It means that the two are not talking, and if there's lack of communication between the president and his leader in government business in Parliament, then there's a problem.
No. The president can even disagree with the finance minister. At the end of the day, the one who is in charge of the vehicle is the president. The president, together with what you call the leadership of the party, they represent the party's highest position. So those decisions have to be, I guess basically what it simply means is that subsequently, all leaders, when they want to make position, they need to, first of all, they need to articulate that this is my personal position. This is not the position necessarily of the vehicle that is known at the NDC.
How is it a personal view? Because Mahama Yarga is MP for Boko Central, that's private, but publicly he's the leader of the majority.
I agree.
Anything he says, and his whip was with him. Now, who is their boss? Is their boss you, the party executives, or their boss is the president?
Yeah, but then again,
so that who can tell them to change their mind?
But don't forget, we are not even saying that you are not entitled to have your personal opinion. Don't forget let's say the majority in Parliament represents what you call a part of the political party.
So it's a wing of
It's a wing of the party. The same way you have different wings for the party.
So you should give them instructions.
Ultimately, decisions regarding the party's position are taken at the highest level of the party. So, for example, majority leader is supposed to be part of our, should I call it, the functional executive of the party. If a decision has to be taken, he is part of that overall decision led by the president, who is the leader of the party. And that is when you're talking about party position. But individuals still then can have individual position, but ultimately the view of the party is articulated either by the president.
So I want to know, member of parliament for Ashaiman, where does he take instructions from? Is it from Fifi Kwete and Johnson Asiedu Nketia, or from John Dramani Mahama? Who is the ultimate person that gives them instructions?
No, when you mean taking instructions, first of all, we don't expect that our MPs are going to simply be there, be vehicles for taking instructions. They have latitude as much as possible to do their function, and also to be mindful of what you call the positions of their constituents. That's number one. Now, there are a few issues where party's decision, party's view is needed. And that's why we're talking on the three-line whip in parliament. So in those positions, you have to defer to the party at the highest level, and that's
even if you disagree.
But that's just generally, when you work in an organization, you don't have to always agree with everything. I mean, I have work in government. I mean, there were instances where I vividly disagree. If I can tell you, it's even a clear scenario where, for example, I was a former deputy finance minister, myself and my other colleague, deputy minister, Setekpe at the time, we disagreed on a major political issue in parliament, where he argued on one side, I argued on the other side, because we saw it differently. And I would say at the time, the position then was towards his position, but recently the position has now become my position. So, I mean, it's okay. It's okay to have disagreement. It's not a problem.
This is Face to Face on Channel 1 Television. My guest is the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Fifi Kwete. We're just talking generally about the NDC's win, the expectations from Ghanaians, expectations from NDC, and how you can manage the two. When we come back, he himself has been General Secretary for 3 years. I'll ask him how he has fared, what he has done, and also we'll talk about the government in office. Please stay with us. I'm back this Face to Face on Channel 1 Television. I'm Umaru Sandamadu. My guest is Fifi Kwete. He is General Secretary of the NDC. Now, not all your MPs have been served. Not all your NDC members have been served. And when I say served, I mean given appointments, which is seen as a reward for the contribution and hard work. I see posts on social media where someone would say, oh, I'm a polling agent, I did ABCD, nothing has happened to me. You promised to do 1-1-1-1 as 24-hour economy. There are people who jokingly say, so does it mean you're going to appoint 3 CEOs for companies and all of that? But there's another view too, that in solving your 1-1-1 agenda, you could do reshuffling every year so that all your MPs will get appointments. When should we expect reshuffling of the Mahama government, where new faces will be brought in to also enjoy something small?
Mario, your sense of humor is one thing now. It's not so much. First and foremost, then again, I think this whole reset has to go much deeper, to appreciate that the business as usual cannot remain. I know, sadly, our level of, shall I call it, political evolution is such that we view politics, especially elections, as almost like a trophy that has been earned. And the moment you end that trophy,
spoils of war,
all the spoils of war belong to you. You must really have a full benefit of it and exclude everybody from getting it. That mindset has to start, should I call it, becoming increasingly taken out of the picture. Because especially the two major political parties, NDC and NPP, it must start sinking into our consciousness that this country is not our private property. It's not. The resources of Ghana do not belong to the NDC. They do not belong to the NPP. They belong to the people of Ghana. And a lot of those people actually are even unborn children. So it means whatever we do, we owe it a responsibility at every moment to ensure that what it is we are seeing, first of all, must be preserved. And if possible, must be enlarged enough to be able to remember that there are generations that are coming ahead of us who would need to have that. Now, that doesn't mean, for example, that to the extent that people who have worked be helped. it should not be helped. Clearly, the opportunity must be given. But when people are told in plain language that, listen, don't think that these resources belong to you, therefore you are entitled to them because your party came to power, your attitude starts to change. You start to realize that, listen, I mean, if you misbehave, you can be in trouble. The resources don't belong to you. You don't have any God-given response, a right to be in the position in which you are. So therefore, do what is right for the country at all moments. It also means that ordinary people who don't necessarily belong to a political party must always have the opportunity to be able to have. So for example, if there is recruitment, ordinary people who are not necessarily NDC NPP must have the capacity to be able to get a job, to be able to get recruitment. People must feel that there's always what you call a pathway for them, regardless of whether they are hardcore NDC or NPP members. So that transition itself is another part of the research that we clearly have to continue to encourage. But as you know, things cannot change overnight. I mean, from 1992, a lot of that mindset has crystallized. A lot of people believe that this is what it is. And many, many people who are joining politics, sadly, a lot of young people, for example, who are entering into politics today, are approaching again with exactly that mindset of almost like a certain cannibalization of the country. That the country is almost like a resource, should I call it a vehicle. And once you win power, exactly. Once you win power, it's your turn. You must eat as much as possible and preserve yourself. And now that mindset is one that this research situation seeks to want to inculcate into the minds of our people and say, listen, we will continue to work to expand opportunity. And for example, how does everybody expect that you can get a job just within 1 year of a party coming to power? I mean, we've been in power for 8 years during President Rawlings. We've been in power for 8 years during Prof. Mills and John Mahama. And I can tell you that there were many people in the party who simply could not have a position because it's never possible to be able to get opportunity for every single person. But what it matters is that you need to make sure the economy is expanding enough so that even on their own, whatever private things they are doing, they will be able to grow their businesses. So for example, a woman who supports my political party, if it can even be a women branch organizer, the fact that he doesn't get a position in government does not mean that the economy should not decide that if, let's say, she has a little, what you call a tabletop business, that tabletop business should be able to expand for her to be able to take care of her family and become a much more productive citizen of the country. That is the mindset that needs to go. And honestly, this conversation is one that must go beyond the NDC, must enter into the NPP. In fact, if there's actually a conversation that both NDC and NPP at the highest level must be having, is this conversation to take out of the mindset that, listen, the country is the property of the ruling parties. Okay. And therefore, once you win, cannibalize the country, take advantage of the country, and make sure you leave nothing for the people.
When President Akufo-Addo was in power, we were told that his belief on reshuffle or his position was that if you have not done anything wrong, there's no need for you to leave government, and also that he rewards loyalty. And so to the extent that you've been loyal to him, he will appoint you and you remain there no matter what. People said this about him. People were very closely associated with him. What's the President Mahama position? Does he believe that he should reshuffle often, annually, biannually? Is that his thinking? Or he thinks that the people he has appointed, they will remain there for the next 4 years unless they commit a crime that makes them go?
I think, first of all, he wants people who would be able to work hard to ensure that the reset agenda is put in a good place. And also, he's clearly made it clear, because again, as I said, in cabinet, I sit in cabinet with him, and I know, for example, he's told every single person that the position is not your private position. It's a position you've been given in order to be able to do something for the people. So at any point in time when you are unable to contribute to the level that is required, you should appreciate that the position can be taken away from you. In fact, there is one particular, shall I call it, government, where those who are serving clearly do know that they cannot take anything for granted. I would think this is the one. And then again, it makes a lot of sense, because you see what? President Mahama has got a unique opportunity. In the past, most presidents literally had to tread very cautiously. Why? Because they were constantly having in mind for a rerun. Between now and 2028, whatever decision he takes, he does not need to be afraid of somebody voting against him, because he's not running again. And because he's not running again, he can take positions that are clearly for the benefit of the country and also for the benefit of the
society. So should we expect
so that is why, that's what I'm saying that for...
Should we expect a reshuffle in January?
You should, I wouldn't be able to give it time, but what I can tell you is that there will not be one moment of hesitation if reshuffle has to be done. I don't know why Nana Akufo-Addo couldn't do it. I was a bit disappointed because even though we belong to different parts different political, different sides of the politics, I've always, prior to he becoming president, I've always thought that he had that personality who will do what is right regardless of whether individuals get offended or not. I was a bit disappointed. I thought that saw that in him, but unfortunately, once you are loyal to him as a person, you are kept in the position. But it should not be. You must be loyal to the country. You must do what is right for country. Okay. And if you do what is not for the country, even if that benefits your party, as a leader, as a president, you should be able to take a decision.
When people stay in appointment for long, they become comfortable, and there's a view that this comfort leads to engaging in recklessness and corruption and all of that. As General Secretary who do not want your party to be tagged in that manner, would you push in cabinet for the president to reshuffle this year, next 2 years? At what time do you think is long enough for the president to reshuffle?
It's true that the longer people stay in position, sadly, the more tendencies that do not inure to the benefit of the country tend to show their ugly heads. But then again, I can tell you, I remain 4 years in the same position as Deputy Finance Minister. And I can tell you that into the 4th year, I wouldn't say a part of me had diminished at all in terms of my desire to do what is right for country. Because if you truly are doing what is right, the longer the time you have, the more you are able to literally unfold a lot of your vision. So it's not simply a one-size-fits-all thing that applies to everybody.
Okay.
There are people who clearly need even time in order to be able to bed their ideas, in order to understand what you call the whole engineering, because public services have need to understand the way the process goes. Okay. Because it's like you are meeting a group of people who many of them have been there for decades, and you've just come. You need time to appreciate the way they operate in order to know how to be able to get your agenda through. So it's not a simple case of everybody has to be reshuffled quickly, otherwise there will be no efficiency. Okay. Some will perform very well when you are giving more time. Others who clearly are not doing well need to be moved, possibly to places where they can do better, but some who clearly are not doing enough have to be moved.
Should the 2 vacancies that resulted due to the death of your colleagues be replaced earlier? The president said he will do that after Christmas. Is that okay by the party?
I think they definitely will. Yeah, the party is fine with that.
Now let's go back to something you talked about. Okay. The president is in his final term. Is he really? They said that you, the NDC, you're working hard. You want to win majority, super majority, or extra super majority in parliament. That's why you're fighting for Pandai, so that you would make President Mahama run again for a 3rd term. What is your party position on this man? We've heard the president, I spoke to his Minister for Communication, Felix Kwachi, said that the president is not running again. Is the party working on something like this? If chances happen that let President Mahama run again, would you endorse that as a party?
First and foremost, you must appreciate that all over sub-Saharan Africa, if there is one country that has been able to provide a model that continue to be an inspiration in terms of democratic transition, is Ghana. That's why the recent thing that happened in Benin was a bit unfortunate, because Benin, along with Ghana, let's say Benin was holding the flag for the Francophones, and Ghana clearly holds a flag for the Anglophones. So what happened in Benin was really like a real slap in the face. And that for me also simply means that the searchlight must be put on Benin properly in order to understand what is happening there. If it's true that there is some kind of attempt to use what you call political manipulations to subvert things without necessarily a coup, those things have to be looked at, because we are talking about a situation where the ordinary people must constantly feel that we are empowered enough to make that ultimate decision. And not those who are in leadership thinking they are so smart that they can literally manipulate the processes constantly to their advantage. What it simply means is simple. Ghana that clearly has set this tone in terms of the transition in governance, in terms of keeping to our constitution, ensuring that we allow people to have the voices to make that decision. We at no point should ever encourage a situation where there is such what you call a disruption in our constitutional, shall I call it, what we stated that we ought to do. The president has spoken about this, and clearly he did it well, because he didn't want to allow such what you call conversations to continue as if he's entertaining it. That's not all. The party itself that has promised to ensure that we do what is right for the country has to ensure that in this spirit of reset, we are the ones who are ensuring that even though we have such a huge majority in parliament, we should use it only to be able to do what is good for the country and not trying to change constitutions because we are trying to make maybe one person happy.
So hand on heart, no Mahama
we stand behind the president declaring that there will be no third term.
Okay. Now that you've said that, very soon he will become lame duck because power will start shifting. You're going to start looking for a flag bearer. We already know that a number of people are said to be expressing interest. This President Mahama is a man you believe to be the one who's holding this party together, the country together, because you have a reset and he is the ultimate power and he supports you in this agenda to do a reset. What if people start disrespecting him and disobeying his commands because there's a new guy on the block? How do you deal with that? How are you able to manage the powers of an outgoing president versus a new flag bearer who you have to project and promote as a party?
All right. In the first place, whoever emerges to become the presidential candidate of our party will definitely be somebody who is humble and also smart enough to appreciate that his chances of winning power is, the chances are totally dependent on the performance of John Mahama and the government. So if you clearly do know that you are taking the baton from someone, you will be the one to be in the very, very first forefront of ensuring that respect for that individual remains absolutely sacrosanct. You will be the one. Then naturally, if you set that tone, that this, if you call it outgoing leader, is the one who determines the success of whoever is taking over, including even the NDC as a vehicle, then your own, the way you set that tone, make sure that the people who are around you immediately understand it. But if you yourself are literally short-sighted enough, not smart enough and not humble enough to appreciate that it is the success and should I call it, the success of John Mahama, especially in this second time, that would ensure that there will be a future success for NDC as a vehicle and for individuals who will lead the vehicle. Furthermore, it means that the party would have maybe made a mistake choosing you. The party clearly, that must constantly be able to see the way forward, will be making a mistake choosing an individual who can simply understand this basic political reality. Okay. I do not see that happening. Yep. So I see whoever emerges to be one who will understand the primacy of John Mahama in terms of his success and ensuring that he's continued to be given that respect as a leader of the party, as a current leader of the party, who subsequently, if there is a presidential candidate, he ceases there to become the party, but still remains to call the only, shall I call it, the past presidential leader in our party. Okay. So naturally, that's a big voice. There's a very big voice.
There's a general belief that your chairman wants to run for flag bearer. Are you officially aware? Are you unofficially aware? How are you dealing with this as a party? You yourself, do you have an interest?
Let's say it this way, that especially in the first year after you won power, any conversation regarding interest in running for power, I find it personally, I find it an insult to the NDC as a whole, an insult even to President Mahama.
It's too early.
Because we barely have come into office. We spent 8 years in opposition, made promises to people, and we've taken over power. The promises that we've made to the country, we are now beginning to, as it were, implement them. There are promises we've made to our own political people. In terms of people who have worked for us. We have not even come to, should I call it, 10% or even 20% of the accomplishment of that. And whereas leadership should be focused on ensuring that this number one thing is the focus, that you think about it, you actually are going to start what you call spending your energy now thinking about what is in it for me. What it simply means out there, the millions of NDC people who are watching me, Any individuals who show that tendency are individuals who are simply telling you that they care about themselves far more than they care about the organization. Because your number one focus at the moment should be the success of this vehicle. That President Mahama should actually succeed. That the ministers are held to their feet, are held to the fire for them to do what is right. The chief executive do what is right. The party as an organization continue to show the discipline and the support for the system. That's what you do. Subsequent to the first year, you now go into what you call the reorganization of the party, starting from the branch level, through the constituency, through the region, then to the national level. When those things are done, then you are now talking about having done the necessary, and hopefully by that time you have done a lot more, not just in delivering for the country, but also delivering for the party. When people subsequently then say that, okay, you know what, we are thinking that we want to run after President Mahama, the party will be far more ready to listen. And even the country will be much more willing to want to know, having known what it is as a vehicle. So I want to say that I don't want to personally talk about individuals, but it's generally a message to all individuals who clearly possibly are showing a bit of haste, a bit of impatience. Relax. But this is not the moment to start jumping.
This statement you're making should possibly be a statement you make to your boss and also the chief of staff, because
it's a statement I make to everybody.
But have you had a chance to speak to the chief of staff whom we've heard is interested, and also to General Mosquito whom we've heard is interested?
Let's just say that,
as General Secretary, would you be able to tell them this?
Let's just say that if you notice, initially, I'm sure you heard a bit of things that amount to people, shall I call it gunning and gunning, but I'm sure you notice at the moment that so clearly, the message is simply anchoring for people to appreciate that. Listen, there are right things to be done. The right things have to be done in the right moment. Okay. Otherwise, whatever good intention you have becomes not very good.
A Mosquito Julius contest will be bloody for the NDC, don't you think?
Let's see. At the end of the day, you must always remember the party remains sovereign. And I've known one thing about this party. This party is very, very smart, very discerning. And this party simply knows whose moment it is. So I don't really think, regardless of whoever emerges for contest, I believe the party will take a decision that will ensure that first and foremost, the interests of the party remain supreme. And then also, whoever is going to emerge is strong enough to be able to lead the party well.
Will Fifi support any candidate in the...
Too early to state whether who I will support or who I will support.
Your friends in the NPP are going to the polls next month. When are you going to the polls for a flag bearer? Is it next 2 years, next 3 years? What's your schedule like? Yeah,
invariably we will not be looking at, as I told you, we have a process to now go through the proper, what our friends are doing, again, for me, is what happens when sometimes you are so badly bruised and you run into a state where if you're not careful, you try to literally do things ahead of themselves. Because you know what, if you look at should I call it an organic tree, you know that the tree has roots, and those roots are always the most important ones. So every process must derive from roots. You don't start processes from the very, very top of the tree. You start processing from ensuring that the roots
So that's what you're going to branch.
So that's what you constantly must do. You go to the branches, then the branches now move to constituencies, constituencies move to regions, then to the national. Then whatever is emerging beyond national as far as leadership of the party to run for presidency is concerned is taking its strength from the very roots. Okay. But what you see there, but I can appreciate them. They've gone through a bit of trauma. The reset blow has not been an easy blow to deal, especially talking about a political party that has been feeling very, very good and thought that they were the best.
So because they are
they
are doing flag bearer first, you think they will run into difficulties?
Anyway, it's their party to run, but I simply do not understand how it is that you'll be able to have somebody emerging to lead your party at the highest level and whose strength is not on the back of what you call the root of the party, because the people who are there at the moment represent the past. You've not given an opportunity since loss of election to know what views are at your polling stations, whether those polling stations, who they are. Maybe they have different people that they want to be in charge. Different people want to be in charge of the constituency. You must allow that. So in the back of this new voice, when you emerge, you know that you are leading a new voice, as opposed to you are simply there almost by default.
So based on your calculations, when should an NDC presidential primary be?
NDC definitely would not be looking at primaries before the middle of 2027.
Okay, so up to next 2 years.
Definitely
Very
not
well.
before the middle of 2027.
But one thing that will be happening is the election of national executives. That's happening in December next year. I would ask Fifi Kwete if he wants to run again and what legacy he has built for the NDC. Please stay with us. Welcome back. This face-to-face on Channel 1 Television. It's December 2026. It's 25. What am I ahead of my time? NDC people went to the polls and elected you. I remember I was at that Congress where you were elected. You've been in office for 3 years. You've won the ultimate election, presidency. But are there other things you promised, and have you delivered those things for the party?
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, it's nearly 3 years. We were elected on the 17th of December, 2022. So today is 14th. So basically in 3 days will be exactly our 3rd anniversary. And I'm happy that the promises we made to our people, we are working steadily to ensure that we can fulfill those promises. Of course, the first promise made was that we were going to put in place a system that will ensure that we can deliver power to our people. Remember that we have tried in 2016, we couldn't win. We tried in 2020, we couldn't win. So that was like virtually 8 years. So we needed to ensure that we work hard enough to be able to deliver that victory. I'm personally happy because that would be, shall I call it, the second time that the party had been in opposition for 8 years. And then I came in as one of the executives. I did the same thing back in 2025 when I came in, then in charge of communication of the party.
2008.
2008, and we were able to deliver a very important victory at the time. Not with the margin we saw this time, but it was an important victory. Most people didn't believe it was possible. And this time again, we've done it, but this time even with a much bigger margin. So that is the first thing that we did. And as I said, it's important, having had that victory, to also let your people appreciate that this victory is bigger than us. That orientation is one that I say will continue. Because it's not easy for people to simply come to terms with the fact that, hey, even though they can see the victory, they see that you're having to third majority in parliament. Sometimes they start to realize, hey, it's because of us. It's because we work super hard. It's true that we work hard, but it's a lot more than that. So we need to keep that balance all the time. And that is a conversation, that's an internal conversation that we continue to have. That's another one. We are ensuring that we work closely with government. And I would say that again, there's a bit of appreciation. For instance, the heart of the government is always the economy. The heart of government is always the economy. And the difficulties often that emerge at the level of the economy often come from the politics. People often think that it's the economic management that causes problem. No, I can tell you. The biggest problem of especially democracies in our part of the world is often the political pressure. When you have the politics being, should I call it, the politics is in one lane, the economy is in one lane, there's going to be a problem. Especially when the pressure can build in on the economic manager in order to do what it is that the party wants. Often that's where the derailment of the economy happens. Now, so if you happen to have the general secretary of your party who has been a former deputy finance minister, who also has worked with the current minister in parliament, both of them in the same finance committee, and of course who have built good friendship together, it helps. It helps because the political pressure gets buffered. Why? Because the person,
you understand the situation.
They understands it. So where we need to show patience, we're able to have that conversation and give the president the backing. Say, Mr. President, you have our backing.
But you know that the demands are high.
That's true. That's very true. But you see, you must appreciate, all the people really want is that you are at least working for the good of the country as a whole. And of course, see what you are doing. I mean, you have, for example, you are securing the country's, the economic stability that is coming. That the currency, you are doing something about the currency. You have reduced the debt situation. You are doing something about the road system. You are gradually freeing, and you are doing all this without borrowing. That you are literally coming through a very difficult situation. When they see that, then they clearly know that a lot more good things are going to be coming tomorrow. So I would say that in terms of my mandate, the most crucial aspect now is to ensure that we navigate through this initial difficulty until we reach a point where the economy is become strong on its own. Then we can say that we are good enough.
But at the party secretariat, what are the things that we can point to and say, no, this is a Fifi Kwete legacy, or this is something Fifi Kwete promised and he has delivered, and that's why we are seeing this at the secretariat level?
For example, even leading to the election itself, it was very clear, having being in charge of the party prior in terms of the communication of the party, and coming now as a general secretary of the party, one of the first things I noticed very quickly was that the last election was not an election that we were going to win on the back of the communication. I immediately saw it. In fact, as usual with my practice, I started the year wanting to do a series of press conferences to be able to literally take on what I thought was wrong with the economy and all that. And I did the first one, actually. And then immediately I did that. It dawned on me that no, this election is not going to run on back of communication. What we needed to do was to focus what I call the election engineering. So that's why the election directorate became virtually like my number one focus in terms of working very closely with my very good friend, now late, Dr. Kofi Omaniboama, working to ensure that the systems were in place to ensure that we simply police the polls.
So it was not to set any record straight?
No. This time around, it was to make sure we set the record straight at the electoral level, at the electoral engineering level.
So refocusing on the agenda.
And that became very, very important. We place the resources in those places, ensure that the people who were in charge, the technical people, were given room to bring their ideas, and ensure that the system as a whole, and that was very massive.
When are you going to open nominations for the national executive?
We will start, as I said, with the branches.
Okay.
So
when is that starting?
We're looking at sometime in the first quarter next year.
Okay.
We will be starting that process,
okay,
and then gradually move it through the branch, through the constituency, through the region, and eventually to the national.
Will you
the
run
national most likely will be around December.
Will you run again?
Oh, definitely. I intend to run and
to do what? You promised victory. You've got a victory. Go and retire because you have a history of the voluntary retirement.
Yeah,
you retire from parliament.
The reset is important. I mean, it's important for us to ensure that we support President Mahama in ensuring that this reset is not just successful, but becomes, should I call it a foundation that on which we can anchor future success as far as this party is concerned, and also for the country.
So you would run to maintain and protect the legacy? To
ensure that we can keep the legacy, we can protect this, to ensure that we do what is right for our country.
Which means that Fifi is not running for president or running mate?
I don't know why you're still jumping ahead. But let's focus on the first things first, and the first thing is to ensure that we secure the party.
By 2028, why should Ghanaians vote again for the NDC? What would be the things you would expect to see? For which reason Ghanaians would say, listen, NDC is again and should be entrusted?
I would say it's a bit early. That's why we need to work hard now and ensure that the things that we have promised, we deliver them. The conduct that we promised that we show that conduct. We spoke against corruption. We through our demonstration, we show that we are not perfect, but we are not falling to those standards. That we hold our own into account when they do what is wrong. Now, on the back of that, then you are able to now to say, Ghanaians, you know what, this is what I promised you in 2024. That will be able to bring conduct in office that would literally eschew corruption. That if somebody does what is wrong, we'll punish the person. That we want to do well with the economy. We want to place the country ahead of our own consideration. We want to ensure that the party does what is good for the country. On the back of that, you show the things you've done, whether in road, whether in energy. I mean, you've been able to resolve Doomsor very quickly, even though people thought it was going to be a problem. We finally resolve the issues of a financial sector and all
so
that.
So that you still look good.
Then we can then go to the.
But the problem for you would be that you'll be presenting a new candidate.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Don't forget, as I said, victory depends on what the vehicle has done. When the vehicle performs well, you're able to win. President Mahama was vice president in 2012 when Prof. Mills passed away. Ordinarily, that would have been a difficult one because he was running against somebody who had run to and nearly even became president in 2008. Yeah. But because of the good work done by the vehicle between 2009 and 2012, he was able to have.
So strengthen the vehicle and the driver would.
The vehicle should always be number one.
Honorable Fifi, Akbar Maunera.